assumptions, ignite conversations, and build inclusive solutions across every sector of society.
We are not, fighting the men. We are not saying we are equal in terms of rights. We're only asking they should recognize our existence.
Join us on Gender Perspectives, showing every Saturday by 4 p.m. Repeat every Wednesdays by 5 p.m. and Thursdays by 3 p.m. Change begins with perspective. Let's widen yours.
New every morning on Signature TV, we open the day for you with needed energy, information, and required vibes to shape your day. From sizzling snippets of stories in various areas of life to intriguing conversations with net worth guests.
When you have people who have no track record becoming your leaders, you have a problem.
There's no outstanding gratuity when Obi took over from me. I left, in all the accounts of Anambra State, 13.8 billion for him.
Your day cannot be complete without Signature Morning on weekdays and Signature New Day on weekends. There is no better way to start your day except Signature Morning and Signature New Day every day on Signature TV.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of cancer management or treatment is they have some of them, at one point in time, you see them having anemia. Okay, so you see them at times being transfused. But at the same time, you come in with a diet.
Nutrition, mental health, innovations in medicine, fitness, and everyday wellness. Whether you're managing a condition, staying informed, or just living your best life, Inside Health is your trusted guide.
I'm Tigiti Agorom, and I'll be with you every week on Inside Health, only on Signature TV.
Bright and early as the day breaks, as the newspaper headlines trail the stories that shape the day. We at Signature TV trail the headlines that trail the day. We interrogate the headlines. We analyze the stories that make the headlines.
Wyatt is overrated, and they even overrated themselves and went into CBT. They are insensitive of some Nigerian children who have never had what they call CBT.
With passion and emotion, we drive the conversation to change a narrative.
Let nobody be deceived by Nigerian high level of performing in agriculture export. We are still where we are.
Newspaper review on Signature TV every morning on Signature Morning, weekdays, and Signature New Day, weekends. Newspaper review on Signature TV. We do not just review the headlines, we make the headlines relevant to our daily lives.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Uchenna Chimdi Oluoha. In the headlines, ADC factions give conflicting interpretations of Supreme Court judgment. INEC fixes June 20th for ENUGU North senatorial by-election and 5 other states. United States imposes sanctions on ex-president of Congo, Joseph Kabila, accusing him of backing rebels. And Iran vows long and painful response if US renews attacks. Details in a moment.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has revised its official database, restoring Senator David Mark as National Chairman of the African Democratic Congress, ADC. The updated website also reinstated other principal figures within the party's National Working Committee, including Ralph Arebeshola as National Secretary, Mani Ahmad as National Treasurer, Akibu Dalhatu as National Financial Secretary, and Professor Osaremen Osumbo as National Legal Advisor. The INEC had in earlier April taking down their names from its website following a directive issued by the Court of Appeal. A decision that prompted protests from the faction loyal to Mark, as well as criticism from opposition voices. The dispute stemmed from a prolonged legal contest over the legitimacy of Mark's leadership and the broader command structure of the ADC. The Supreme Court had, in a significant turn on Thursday, nullified the earlier ruling of the Appellate Court, saying the order to preserve the status quo ante bellum could no longer stand once the relevant proceedings had been concluded, describing its continuation as both unnecessary and without legal basis. The Apex Court further upheld the appeal brought by the Mark-led faction and directed that the substantive case filed by aggrieved party member Nafiu Bala Gombe at the Federal High Court be heard promptly and decided on its merits. The Supreme Court's judgment on the leadership tussle within the African Democratic Congress, ADC, is, however, generating fresh controversy.
The Supreme
as
Court
opposing factions within the party offer differing interpretations of the ruling. While each side claims the verdict validates its position, the conflicting narratives have further deepened the crisis over the party's control and direction. Correspondent Chimezie Nzedimma, who was at the Apex Court to witness the proceedings, has more.
The Supreme Court has struck out earlier judgments of the Court of Appeal, which directed parties in the African Democratic Congress crisis to maintain status quo ante bellum. The Apex Court held that since there was no outstanding case before the Appellate Court, it lacked the jurisdiction to make a declaration that gave the impression that the parties had issues before the Appeal Court, which needed to be resolved and which could suffer if the situation was not maintained the way it was. The Supreme Court described the position of the Appeal Court as unnecessary and unwarranted. The ruling had formed the basis for the decision by the Independent National Electoral Commission to remove the names of David Mark-led executive of the ADC from its official portal.
The order made by the Court of Appeal that status quo ante bellum be restored had been set aside. In other words, the basis upon which INEC acted to remove the name of Senator Mark and his escort had been removed by the Supreme Court, agreed that the order of status quo ante bellum made by the Court of Appeal was unwarranted and no basis to make it was unnecessary.
Out of 7 grounds of appeal, 6 failed. They filed 7 grounds of appeal. Grounds 1 to 6 were a complete failure. Supreme Court dismissed them. The ground 7 that succeeded is limited to the narrow issue of the consequential order. status quo and take them. Should the Court of Appeal have made that order, Supreme Court said no, that the only court that can make such an order is the court that still has case pending before it, which is the federal court. So that is the only narrow issue on which this case is. It failed on every other ground.
Counsel to David Mack, Jubril Okutepa, described the judgment as a victory, insisting that the Supreme Court decision validates his client's position and allows his leadership to continue party activities pending further proceedings.
The Supreme Court allowed the appeal. The objection to the competence of the appeal was dismissed. The appeal was valid, but they agreed that we ought not to have come to the Court of Appeal for the question to come and show cause. And so we're going back to the trial court.
However, counsel to Naifu Balagombe, Robert Omuperu, offered a contrasting interpretation, stating that the Supreme Court did not determine who the legitimate party leadership is. He noted that out of 7 grounds of appeal, only 1 succeeded, the issue of jurisdiction, while the core leadership dispute remains unresolved.
The Supreme Court did not enter into such an issue to decide whether this person is the chairman, whether this person, that issue didn't come up at all. It fell within a very narrow technical compass. Was the Court of Appeal right to decline to hear their appeal? That's all. And Supreme Court said, yes, they were right, but they were wrong to have made out that status quo.
The Supreme Court has directed all parties to return to the Federal High Court, where the substantive matter is pending for accelerated hearing and final determination. Legal analysts say the ruling leaves both factions claiming partial victory, while the real battle returns to the trial court, where the issue of jurisdiction in matters of internal party disputes will be a major issue in contention.
This appeal was to get the Supreme Court to decide the issue of whether or not the claim before the Federal High Court was justiciable. Was it a justiciable claim or was it not? Supreme Court said the Court of Appeal properly declined to hear it because that issue is properly before the Federal High Court. We are going back to the Federal High Court for the case to be heard on the merits, on the basis of the order of the Court of Appeal for accelerated hearing. Let me make the point. The order for accelerated hearing made by the Court of Appeal was not a subject matter of appeal. So nobody challenged that order. So that order is still subsisting.
With no definitive pronouncement on who leads the ADC, the leadership crisis remains far from over, even as political alignments ahead of 2027 continue to hang in the balance. In Abuja, Chimize Nzadima reporting for Signature Television.
The same controversy and conflicting interpretations have also greeted the Supreme Court's judgment on the crisis in the People's Democratic Party, with both the Turaki and Wike factions giving conflicting interpretations. The Board of Trustees of the Turaki faction says it has assumed leadership of the party pursuant to empowering provisions of the Constitution of the party as amended in 2017. A statement issued by Senator Adolphus Nwambara in his capacity as the BOT chairman said the constitutional intervention is to avoid any leadership vacuum at the national level of the party, following Thursday's judgment of the Supreme Court. Nwambara noted that while the Supreme Court invalidated the Ibadan Convention, it also, in a unanimous decision of the 5 justices on the panel, upheld the suspension of Senator Samuel Anyanwu, Umar Bature, Kamaldeen Ajibade as National Secretary, National Organizing Secretary, and National Legal Advisor from the party. He said the implication of the judgment by the Supreme Court is that all actions taken by Senator Samuel Anyanwu, Umar Bature, and Kamaldeen Ajibade, including the appointment of Abdulrahman Mohammed as acting national chairman, the composition of the National Caretaker Working Committee, and the conduct and outcome of the March 29, 2026 convention in Abuja are illegal, null, and ab initio void. According to him, the consequential invalidation of both the Abdulrahman Mohammed-led as well as the Kabiru Turaki-led working committees directly places the statutory onus of leadership on the party on the shoulders of the Board of Trustees as the second highest organ of the party. Wabara directed all staff of the PDP to resume at the National Secretariat of the party under the leadership of the BOT ahead of the appointment of the Interim National Working Committee. Meanwhile, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has declared that there is no longer any faction in the PDP following the Supreme Court's dismissal of the appeal by the Kabiru Turaki-led group over the Ibadan National Convention. Speaking at his Abuja residence shortly after the judgment, Wike told reporters that the Supreme Court's decision has settled the matter once and for all. The ruling, he said, effectively ends the months-long leadership tussle in the main opposition party. Wike addressed the fallout for key backers of the Turaki-led group, claiming that Governor Sheyi Makinde's and Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed's hopes are dashed, insisting that the convention of the Abdurrahman-led group remains valid. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has fixed Saturday, June 20th, 2026, for the conduct of by-elections in 6 states of the Federation. The elections would cover senatorial vacancies in ENUGU, Nasarawa, Rivers, and Ondo states, as well as a State House of Assembly seat in Kebbi State and a House of Representatives seat in Kano State. The chairman of INEC, Professor Josh Amupiton, disclosed this at a brief ceremony held at the Commission's headquarters in Abuja to receive and swear in a new national commissioner, retired Rear Admiral Jamila Malafa. Amupiton said the by-elections would be conducted alongside the Ekiti State governorship election, which has been scheduled for the same date. Speaking on the appointment of the new national commissioner, Amupiton described Malafa as a seasoned professional with extensive experience spanning military service and electoral operations. He noted that the new commissioner had previously worked with the commission in the area of logistics and served as Director of Legal Services in the Nigerian Navy, bringing a wealth of administrative and legal expertise to her new role. In a brief response, Malafa expressed appreciation for the reception accorded her and pledged to contribute meaningfully to the Commission's work. As Nigeria continues to grapple with rising cases of chronic illnesses, the conversation around prevention is taking center stage. That was exactly the focus of the 12th valedictory lecture of the University of Nigeria ENUGU campus, delivered by a distinguished professor of clinical pharmacology and nutritherapeutics, Chioli Pascal Chijuki. Correspondent Christopher Lele attended the event for Signature TV.
The 12th valedictory lecture of the University of Nigeria ENUGU campus brought together a broad mix of stakeholders, health professionals, policymakers, academics, business leaders, students, and community figures. Underscoring the relevance of the subject, representing the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Simon Otuanya, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Administration, Dr. Josephat Onwomere, described the lecture as both timely and necessary. He emphasized the need for people to adopt lifestyles that would make them age gracefully.
For those whom it pleased God to allow to grow to be called old people, this lecture is very important. And to all those aspiring to grow old. So on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Simon Uchenna Otuanya, I, Professor J.J. Onwomere, declare this valedictory lecture open.
Delivering the lecture, Professor Chiole Pascal Chijioke, a professor of clinical pharmacology and nutritherapeutics, focused on the theme towards healthy aging, personalized nutrition, and the reversibility of chronic disease processes / cancer prevention. Professor Chijioke emphasized that what people eat plays a critical role in preventing chronic diseases and promoting healthy aging. He urged the government and key stakeholders to adopt nutrition-driven approaches in tackling public health challenges.
So personalized nutrition would use genetic information specific to an individual patient to pre-select a diet that will be nutritious and not incubate the metabolic syndrome-associated immune dysfunction. I think I can speak faster when it's actually on the slide. And this would be better than just relying on trial and error in terms of maintaining health. And in future, as we get to know more about our respective nutri-genomes, then appropriate labeling packaging on foods would enable us to avoid those dietary components which may be harmful to that particular individual.
The ENUGU State Commissioner for Health, Professor George Ugu, who represented Governor Peter Mbah, said the lecture offered practical insights that could help shape policies within the state's health system.
So this is a very important public health message that we have picked up here, and it is the kind of message that His Excellency likes to work with. So, and we can even use diet and reverse somebody who was having hypertension and become normal control. So if we look well, if we keep copying other people's diet, it keeps being an issue for us. So he's referring us back to our good old local diets, things that are healthier to eat, and body practices that are more preventive of health, exercises. If you combine it with exercises, good nutrition, then you'll be healthy. You don't have to be buying drugs, you don't have to be going to hospitals. So that is a very important message which we are going to work with in our public health department in the ENUGU State Ministry of Health under the leadership and guidance of His Excellency Governor Peter Mbah.
From Abia State, Commissioner for Health Enoch Uche, who stood in for Governor Alex Otti, described the lecture as both celebratory and strategic, highlighting opportunities for collaboration to strengthen healthcare delivery.
Congratulate him for such a very productive and fruitful research life and academic life. Of course, we want to wish him well because the valedictory lecture shows that he's signing out. And as he signs off, we want to believe that he still has a lot to provide. And of course, Abia State will be open for him to come and explore things that he can do with us because we can see that he has a huge repertoire of experience and of course of evidence-based nutritional options that can be helpful to us in what we're doing.
Colleagues also paid tribute to Professor Chijioke's academic journey. Dr. Michael Okafor of the Department of Pharmacology noted that the valedictory lecturer has set a standard worthy of emulation.
Dr. Chijioke is a seasoned academic. He has worked all over this place to be able to show us that if you live right, you are going to, and especially eat right, exercise right and sleep right, you are going to age very well. And a whole lot of diseases that are associated with you not living right will not appear in the first place.
The event also featured free medical consultations, including checks on blood pressure, blood sugar, height and weight, alongside the presentation of awards and gifts.
University of Nigeria, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Simon Uchenna Achana. I hand over this left to you in recognition of this lecture, which I found a wonderful lecture. I'm going to digest it again and see those items I have to consume, those foods